America's decided to turn the page on its antiquated Operation Blue Book style UFO investigation, trading it all in for a shinier new model. They are now taking a fresh approach toward a topic which, for so long, had been completely dismissed. Have you ever wondered about the origin of aliens, ghosts, or demons? Have you ever asked your priest or pastor if the Bible can explain these things, only to come away with no real answers? I don't know about you, but I have. So, I spent the past 15 years researching these topics, and I've pieced together a very compelling explanation for many of the world's mysteries. I'd like to start a conversation about the things your pastor is afraid to talk about. This is Audra Moore, and you're listening to Evil's Ancient Origins. UFO or UAP, what's the difference? Not much, really. In my opinion, this new title is an attempt to escape the long-standing stigma tied to the subject of unidentified objects. It seems to me that officials had backed themselves into a corner and are now trying to save face. As you probably already know, UFO stands for Unidentified Flying Object, right? But UAP, on the other hand, originally stood for Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon, but now stands for Unidentified Anomalous Phenomenon. According to Wikipedia, the term UAP first appeared in the late 1960s, while the term UFO has been around since 1947. There's not a lot of difference between the two, though, once it's all parsed out. So, where was this nomenclature derived from, and how has it come to dominate the headlines of American media in the last few years? Well, as far as I can tell, the recent attention began in 2017 with a New York Times article titled "Glowing Auras and Black Money, the Pentagon's Mysterious UFO Program." The article was the result of a secret meeting held on October 4th, 2017, between New York Times contributor Ralph Blumenthal, Pentagon correspondent Helene Cooper, and best-selling author Leslie Kean, when they met with several present and former intelligence officials and defense contractors, one of which being Luis Elizondo, the director of an ongoing secret Pentagon program called the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program. Lou, who had turned in his resignation for the Pentagon that day, protested of its excessive bureaucracy, low funding, and compartmentalization regarding the very real UAP issue. The resulting front page article of the Sunday edition of the New York Times piqued the interest of people everywhere, and the conversation on the topic continues to gain traction even still, some 7+ years later. So, how did we get here? For several decades, people have been ridiculed for even breaching the subject. But I guess as the children of Star Trek reruns aged into adulthood, our curiosity has outweighed traditional thinking on the subject and is finally allowing for a more open discussion about the unidentified objects in our skies. This new information, released by the team of rogue citizens, was so convincing that it has turned the tide on what is now acceptable to discuss in the open. But so much has occurred in the past 10 years that it would do us well to recap. So, this program is basically A synopsis. The secret Pentagon program, which was introduced to the public by its former director, Luis Elizondo, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, or AATIP for short, had been initiated in 2007 by the Senate Majority Leader, Harry Reid. It acknowledged that there are unidentified objects and was intended to investigate their potential threat. This came against America's long-standing position on the subject, which for decades had been that there was no valid proof to this supposed aerial phenomenon. In 2012, the Pentagon claims that the program was discreetly dissolved, with the public none the wiser, right? But in 2017, this article was released and the public was finally clued in on what the government had been up to, with Elizondo claiming his involvement in an ongoing investigation. Soon after the DC hotel meeting with the New York Times, Lou Elizondo and a few others merged with another entity to form the To the Stars Academy of Arts and Sciences, intending to raise awareness as well as money for further research on the topic, independent of the government. The Academy was a strange combination of science and entertainment, represented by rock band Blink-182's co-founder, guitarist, and sometimes lead vocalist, Tom DeLonge. DeLonge's original venture that it had merged with was called To the Stars, an entertainment and media company founded in 2015. Now, in 2011, DeLonge had launched Strange Times, a website devoted to extraterrestrial life, paranormal activity, cryptozoology, and conspiracy theories. So this was right down his alley. Brought together by shared enthusiasm on the topic, the Academy served as a vehicle for Alonzo's goals. But, in my opinion, this strange partnership tainted the credibility of Mr. Alonzo's mission. I remember thinking at the time how silly the whole thing felt. It just didn't make sense for someone who wanted to be taken seriously to involve himself with a rock star to do it. It made me question if Elizondo wasn't a government plant being used to normalize the topic and catalyze slow disclosure. In December of 2017, To the Stars Academy released military footage of aerial phenomenon never seen by the public before, and it quickly spread across the internet, leaving many to rethink their opinion on the topic. A few years later, in April of 2020, the Pentagon officially releases the same, by then unclassified footage of UFOs, and announces that they would start investigating sightings such as these. One of the videos was taken in 2004 by military pilots off the coast of Southern California. Another was filmed in 2015 off the Atlantic coast by an F-18 pilot who can be heard saying, "There's a whole fleet of them. Look at the ASA. My gosh." These sightings were captured by actual military pilots investigating unauthorized or unidentified aircraft reported to be entering military-controlled airspace. Although the Department of Defense claims that funding for AATIP ended in 2012, reports show that other U.S. government programs continued the investigations, which was later confirmed in June of 2020 with acknowledgement of a similar program called the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force, as well as the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, which was within the United States Office of the Secretary of Defense. It's also very tongue-tying. These programs investigated air, sea, and land anomalies, allowing for a more unified gathering of information. As a spicy side note, The original AATIP program, created by Senator Harry Reid in 2007, was inspired by his relationship with Nevada billionaire and government contractor Robert Bigelow, who had founded Bigelow Aerospace in 1999. Now, Bigelow was planning to develop the first commercial space station for a third of the cost that NASA was expending on a single space shuttle at the time. But previously, in 1995, Bigelow had founded the National Institute for Discovery Science to research more fringe sciences and paranormal topics, as well as ufology and cattle mutilation. The National Institute for Discovery Science was disbanded in 2004, even though Bigelow had purchased the famed Skinwalker Ranch in 1996, which, if you don't know, is a 512-acre cattle ranch located in Utah, famed for its extravagant craziness that happens there. Investigations on the ranch began in March of 1997, with incidents occurring with rapid succession until sometime in 2000, when the paranormal activity seemed to have just died down. So by 2004, Bigelow's investigations at the ranch ended. So, much later on, Bigelow sold the ranch in 2016 to the new owner, Brandon Fugel. Most likely, the events he witnessed on Skinwalker Ranch were the catalyst for Bigelow's urging of the then Senator Majority Leader Harry Reid to form the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program in 2007. In December of 2020, Luis Elizondo announced on the Coast to Coast AM radio show that he and two others, Chris Mellon, who was the former staff director of the U.S. Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, and Steve Justice, former director of Advanced Systems Development at Lockheed Martin Skunk Works Division. So they announced they'd be departing the To the Stars organization, but that they planned to create a larger, more permanent, and better funded UFO research program. Elizondo claimed to have acquired images of more unknown aerial objects and planned to expand investigations and disclosure efforts to a global scale. So, by 2022, NASA had assembled a panel of 16 experts to recommend a roadmap for the analysis of the unidentified aerial phenomenon, or UAPs. The analysis would be conducted by NASA along with other contracted specialists. They began their collaboration on October 24th of 2022. They held their first public meeting on May 31st of 2023 and released their final report on September 14th of 2023. So, it stated that they did not find evidence that extraterrestrial life was responsible for the unexplained sightings. The group, spearheaded by NASA, was originally called the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Independent Study Team, or UAPIST. And was established by Karen St. Germain, the director of NASA's Earth Science Division. Now, Dr. St. Germain's resume is impressive indeed, with her entry into the field in the Space Strategic and Intelligence Systems Office, or SSI, Office of the Secretary of Defense for Acquisitions, Technology, and Logistics, where she led the Department of Defense's 2014 Strategic Portfolio Review for Space. According to a NASA blog post in May of 2020, She helped develop a strategy and implementation plan for adapting to evolving challenges in the space domain. It makes me curious what these evolving challenges were within the space domain. As for the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Independent Study Team, or UAPIST, their objective was to compile the most complete database possible by identifying and gathering existing data for all available sources, public, private, and government, speculating on where to gather new data and determining parameters on how to best analyze the data gathered. So, once enough data had been gathered, they decided to change the A in UAPIST from aerial to anomalous, recognizing that the phenomenon was not limited to an aerial problem, but represented itself on land and in water as well. The other organization, working on their own analysis of the matter completely separate from NASA, was the United States Department of Defense's Unidentified Anomalous Phenomenon Task Force, which eventually became the Airborne Object Identification and Management Synchronization Group, which was finally replaced with the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or AARO, in July of 2022, which I do believe is still in, working order. According to the Department of Defense All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office Director Sean Kirkpatrick, NASA brings unique capabilities, world-class scientists, and a wealth of academic research linkages, with access to Earth-sensing satellites, radiological sensors, tools for gravitational wave and geomagnetic detection, and means of analyzing crowdsourced data that may assist AARO and NASA in the UAP efforts. Kirkpatrick stated that NASA would be evaluating unclassified data while AARO classified, with a focus on national security. So, David Spergel, the chair of NASA's UAPIST team, specified that the agency is not a part of the Department of Defense, but that it has coordinated widely across the governmental agencies regarding how to apply their tools of science to shed light on the nature and origin of unidentified anomalous phenomenon. NASA clarified that this new study was unrelated to their active astrobiology program that focuses on the origins, evolution, and distribution of life beyond Earth. Very interesting indeed. Why would the department handling unidentified anomalous phenomenon be kept separate from the astrobiology program? Wouldn't they be connected in theory? I mean, didn't the aforementioned government program make it a point to state that their research of the unidentified anomalous phenomenon showed no proof of extraterrestrial life? In July of 2023, the House Oversight and Accountability Committee held a hearing regarding the unidentified anomalous phenomena and their implications on national security, public safety, and government transparency. Witnesses who spoke were Ryan Graves, Executive Director of Americans for Safe Aerospace; David Grush, former National Reconnaissance Office representative for the Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon Task Force for the Department of Defense; and retired Commander David Favor of the United States Navy. Ryan Graves stated, "I am a former F-18 pilot with a decade of service in the U.S. Navy, including 2 deployments in Operation Enduring Freedom and Operation Inherent Resolve. I have experienced advanced UAP firsthand, and I am here to voice the concerns of more than 30 commercial aircrew and military veterans who have confided their similar encounters with me." Then again, in November of 2024, a second hearing was held by the United States Congress, the subject of which was titled Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon, Exposing the Truth. Witnesses for the congressional hearing were Dr. Tim Galladay, retired Rear Admiral of the U.S. Navy, Luis Elizondo himself, and Michael Gold, former NASA Associate Administrator of Space Policy and Partnership and member of NASA's UAP Independent Study Team. Now, at the same time as this hearing was being conducted, reports of mysterious drones began in the Northeast. Then in December, sightings of strange orbs were reported in New Jersey and Minnesota. I mean, this was an ongoing issue that just went viral. Footage of these phenomena went viral on social media, and the world began to take notice. So what I want to know is, where did they go? Is it still happening? What is going on? Has no one determined what they were? I'm at a loss. So, where are we now? It's been a few months, and with the news turning its attention away from these topics and on to the new administration, America seems to have forgotten about the strange encounters that seem to have been escalating for a little while there. Explanations range anywhere from the classic weather balloon to atmospheric disturbances. Skeptics anticipate a holographic mock invasion to subdue the masses into submission under a coming one-world tyrannical ruler. My takeaway from researching this topic is that there is a concerted effort to separate the anomalous phenomenon from any notion of there being an extraterrestrial entity at its core, while acknowledging that there is something appearing that definitely defies known physics. There is a refusal to accept that there is an otherworldly life form attached to it. Why, though? How can a group of intelligent scientists be so prepared to analyze and assess these phenomena that they have yet to explain, but at the same time be so dead set against acknowledging that there is an intelligence behind them, which must be higher than their own? I mean, if they can't explain it. Has the same pride which causes them to deny a creator has this same pride clouded their ability to accept the very evidence that they are not the most intelligent being in existence? I'm not in any way implying that the intelligence behind these phenomena are our creators. Not at all. I'm just pointing out the long-standing stubbornness and the hubris which has hindered our advancement in accepting that we are not alone. We hope you've enjoyed this episode and will join us again next week when we start another conversation about the things your pastor is afraid to talk about. This is Audra Moore, and you're listening to Evil's Ancient Origins. Look for us next week on YouTube, Spotify, and wherever your favorite podcasts are found.